Hey, Surface fans, this is Jason Ward, JL Tech Word on Twitter. Some of you may know me from my articles on Windows Central. These are exciting times. Surface Duo is here. I don't do much at all, if anything, in the way of videos, so I'm asking you to please forgive me right now for any hiccups that I may have. I don't have a professional setup or anything like that, but I just wanted to sit down in front of the camera, just share some thoughts about where we are now with the Surface Duo. Back in 2015, I started to write an analysis that Microsoft was going to bring to market a device that would actually straddle that line between a tablet and a phone in a way that other devices that had been classified as phablets did not. Something that would truly, in a way, really optimize on both sides of that line, that could really function in that productivity sense as a tablet in a way that typical smartphones that had that label applied to them could not, but still be on the cellular network and be capable of making phone calls, even though telephony would not be its primary function. As many of you know, and as the data would show, that our smartphones are not used primarily as a device to speak on for most people. Most people are using their smartphones as mini tablets, and I've written couple of articles on Windows Central that our smartphones are essentially just mini tablets at this point. So most of the time we're doing tablety or PC-like functions on our cell phones, and Microsoft was taking its particular strengths, and this is where I kind of started with, kind of landed on with my analysis and drew on with my analysis, looking at Microsoft's strengths, where it is in the industry, how it positions itself as a productivity company. Not only professional productivity, but also personal productivity. Its tools, Microsoft 365, Teams, and other things transcend the personal and professional spheres of an individual's life. And Microsoft is using those tools, that software, to try to make people productive in all spheres of their lives. And of course, we also see what they're doing with Surface, and they've been doing it for quite some time now, where they're transcending categories. The Surface Pro 7, even though it took Surface Pro rather, even though it took maybe 3 years to sort of get it right, their vision was to make a tablet that could also be a PC and actually be strong in both categories. Of course, there's arguments to be made that Windows 10 could be a better tablet experience, but they've pretty much achieved what they were going for there. And of course, they're using the term ultimate laptop most recently, but it is a tool that can be both a tablet and a very great PC. So Microsoft's combination of hardware and software really position themselves for productivity, and that's where my analysis kind of rested when you look at where Microsoft was in the smartphone space. Now, as we all know, Microsoft failed in the smartphone space, and even while it was on its way down, the presentation and analysis that I strive to present, even against the tide of popular opinion, was that even though Microsoft had failed and was failing at the time in the smartphone space, and many articles were being written, Windows Phone is dead, and they were using that term pretty much as synonymous with that. Because Microsoft's smartphone efforts were dead or dying, that its mobile efforts were dead or dying, that they were just exiting the mobile space. Now, the distinction that I strive to make in many of my pieces with that, it was that there is a distinction between the smartphone space and the mobile space. You could have a mobile device that is not a smartphone, though a smartphone is a mobile device. But again, the inverse is not necessarily true. A mobile device does not necessarily have to be a smartphone. Now, this is where we rest on Microsoft's strength and position in this area, where they wanted to bring a productivity device, right? A productivity device, a mobile productivity device to the market that optimized on its productivity strengths, its productivity software, Microsoft 365, Teams, Skype, OneNote, all of these things that will be optimized on a hard piece of hardware that was equally as malleable or able to fit a person's or a user's various positions. Whatever it is you're trying to do, the hardware would conform, whether it's professional or personal, whatever configuration you needed, and the software would conform and fit your professional and or personal needs. And that's where Microsoft was going, and that was where much of my analysis rested, was that even though they failed in the smartphone space, they did not care in one sense. Though they didn't care in one sense, because they were moving to a space where they wanted to create a category that where their strengths would be able to shine on a mobile device that wasn't locked into the smartphone category. And I think this is where a lot of us as techies and tech writers and tech journalists and analysis really have to open up our mindset, because we really like to categorize things. It makes it easier to talk about. When you categorize things, it makes it easier to fit maybe into a narrative that we may have presented. But when you look at what Microsoft is doing here, they're not making a device with the Surface Duo, is very clear, that fits neatly into any particular category. And it may be such that we don't even have a name for that category right now. And just to sort of give some sort of framework, I'm going to just use a sort of a fictional analogy. Now, admittedly, I don't watch this series. I never watched it, but I've seen the technology that they use in the series Westworld. Many of you may have seen it. They have a device that is pocketable, that can be unfolded, and it could fit many physical configurations. And the strength with this device is that it also has the capabilities to be a powerful computer and communication device. It's a communication device that fits various physical and user needs. Whatever the user needs it to be, it is that physically, as far as how it fits into this physical scenario, and the software wise, what you need it to do in regards to software. That device is highly mobile, moves with you, and can fit that scenario. Now, admittedly, we are not there technology wise, but when you look at what Microsoft has presented with the Surface Duo, it is the beginning of what that category and that science fiction scenario is. It's a device that fits physically various scenarios, and the software also conforms, right? So we don't necessarily have to call it a smartphone. And I know many people are still calling it a smartphone. This is a smartphone. I don't see it as a smartphone. It's a mobile device, and that fits in the pocket. Now, we also know that Project Andromeda was geared to bring a software experience that was Windows-esque to this device. It was to bring the strengths of Windows to this mobile device, but also give it that really flexible, right? That really flexible mobile experience that one would need. Now, unfortunately, Microsoft had to go with Android because the developers weren't there for the Windows, the customers weren't there. So Satya Nadella and Panos Panay were very clear and very frank that the reason they went with Android was because that's where the users are, that's where the developers are. Now, if we were put ourselves in the position of where we would have been had Windows been on this device, which was where much of my analysis was pointing, because that's where we were headed before the switch happened, we would have had a PC, a literal PC in our pockets that had Windows, which is a PC OS optimized for this form factor. You wouldn't have a desktop form of Windows, but a form of Windows that was optimized for the pocket. And I believe it would have the power of Windows combined with the power of what we see Microsoft still able to do with this Microsoft 365, even on Android. Now, even if you listen to the presentation from the Microsoft Surface Duo briefing, which is kind of playing in the background behind me here, you hear panels even use terminology like Windows, right? The legacy language that would have been used had they successfully brought Windows to this device, he's still using it. Why? Because they really want this Microsoft experience on this device. He's using the words Windows. He's using the word taskbar for where the immediate icons are at the bottom of this Android device. The taskbar we know is usually associated with Windows. So they're still really pushing sort of this Windows and Microsoft experience, even though they had to bring Android into the picture to make this thing successful, to make this thing happen. Just really want you to really look at where this thing is as a category. This is a first gen device, right? So all those people who are getting online and slamming it because it doesn't have NFC, it doesn't have the latest H65 chip, and doesn't have the greatest camera. Microsoft is not competing with your iPhones or your Samsung Galaxy 20s. They're not out there. They're not in that category. They're creating a new category of a communication device, a pocketable device, right? That is on the cellular network, that is geared to productivity, that is able to configure to any of your needs, both hardware-wise and software-wise, that could fit our various scenarios. That's what it's trying to do. That's what this category is meant to do. So this is a first-gen product that is meant to fit in this category. Now, just maybe one final point. When we go back into some of the analysis that I presented, one of the things that we really pushed, particularly when we're talking about Windows Core OS or Project Andromeda being the platform on which ran this hardware, we were also talking about how the device would be able to, connect to different monitors and terminals and become your PC. Now, this is a first-gen product, and I'm thinking down the line that we will see some of this happen, particularly in the world that we're living in now, where because of COVID, many people are working from home, and many companies have realized that productivity has not diminished due to people working at home. Now imagine down the line, this device, this category becoming more powerful, right? This having a form of continuum where you can connect it to monitors, right? There were people arguing before that, well, who's going to carry around a monitor? Where are all these monitors going to be for a continuum? Well, a lot of people are working from home now. Right? A lot of companies, Google, Twitter, and many others have learned that their employees are able to work from home. And, some of them are still having people come into work, and we'll have some people coming in, but you're going to see in this new world where people can work from home and maybe work in the office at a less frequency, but be able to go back and forth. Now, this is a great context in which a device such as this category would fit. Where you've got a monitor sitting at home, you plop your device down, it connects to your monitor in your house, you do your work, you got to go to office once or twice a week, you pick up that same device, you plop it down in front of a monitor there in the office, and it's working. The world now, more than it did before, fits where this type of device, along with its ability to work independently of any external accessories or monitors, as a very malleable or transformative device that can be your tablet, right? It could be your phone. It could fit as a tent mode, right? It could be all these things in your hand and be your PC when you're at a desktop, possibly in the future as well. So again, I just really want to push that this is the beginning of a category. This is Gen 1. And I really want everybody to kind of look at this is not a phone. Don't look at it as a phone. Don't try to slam it into and fit it or shoehorn it into the category of a phone as we talk about it. The hardware, the software goals, and where this thing fits into our world and where it may fit and will, if it succeeds, and may potentially fit as we go forward, is much more than what a smartphone has been to date, right? This is more of a communication device, a PC, in a sense, that is on the cellular network that can be virtually anything we need it to be when we need it to be. So that's just some of my thoughts. I still have more thoughts, and again, I don't get in front of the camera much. So I apologize if I maybe rambled a little bit, but I just wanted to share some of my thoughts. Of many of you who have read my pieces have seen these things over time, and I thank and appreciate who have supported me as I rode against the tide of popular opinion. I got slammed a bit here and there, but I believe my analysis was primarily, or for the most part, accurate as to where Microsoft was headed. We're here, and I think we're going to be going forward from here to see where things go. Now, another thing I want to say for those who are watching this video in the context of the sway in which it is embedded. Now, this sway is meant to bring together all of these individuals who have gone out to the AT&T and Best Buy stores, all the fans, because panel said that the Surface Duo is for Surface fans, and many of you are fans. You've put in your orders despite the $1,400, $1,500 tag, price tag, and but you really couldn't get your hands on it, and you really wanted to. Microsoft gave 50 review units out to some very special people, very lucky folks. But many of you have gone out and you've done some mini reviews right there in the stores. So what I've done, I've added these to a sway, and I'd like to just give this to the fans, that you look at what other fans are doing, and maybe if we get some responses, we could put where the stores are located, and others in the area can get out to them. So Sway, as many of you may know, and some may not know, Microsoft Sway is a tool that Microsoft has. It's dynamically updatable at any time. So you send me the videos. If it's not in this Sway, I'll add them, and just let the fans speak. Let's hear from you. What you like, what you don't like about the Surface Duo. Do your mini reviews in the stores, because those who have the review units, they can't really talk about the software yet due to the embargo. So do your own. We'll add you to the Sway, and let's hear what the fans have to say. All right, thank you very much for listening.